There was a man named Takeshi who had quit smoking 17 times. 17 different attempts over 3 years. Patches, pills, therapy, even hypnosis. He spent over 500,000 yen trying to stop. Each time he quit lasted a few weeks, sometimes a month, but the urge always returned, stronger than before. On his 18th attempt, something different happened. He did not try to quit at all. One evening, exhausted after another failed attempt, Takeshi sat on the steps outside his apartment building in Tokyo. He lit what he thought would be yet another cigarette of defeat. An elderly man named Kenji, who lived on the same floor, sat down beside him without asking. They had never spoken before beyond polite nods in the hallway. Kenji watched Takeshi smoke in silence for a moment. Then he said something that made no sense at all. The problem is not the cigarettes. The problem is that you have nothing worth breathing for. Takeshi was too tired to be offended. He asked what that meant. Kenji smiled. You are fighting the wrong battle. You think you need to break your habit. But what you actually need is Ikigai. When you find your reason for being, the cigarettes will let go of you. You will not need to let go of them. This sounded like nonsense, like the kind of vague advice that helps no one. But Kenji's calm certainty made Takeshi curious. He asked the old man to explain. What followed was not what Takeshi expected. It was not a lecture about willpower or discipline. It was a completely different way of thinking about why we do the things that harm us. We are taught that breaking bad habits is about removal. Stop smoking. Delete the apps. Throw away the junk food. Use willpower to resist. Fight the urge. Stay strong. But here is what no one tells you. Every time you successfully resist a habit, you create an empty space where that habit used to be. And that space does not stay empty. It cannot. Your life will fill it with something. The question is whether you choose what fills it, or whether something else chooses for you. This is why people who quit smoking suddenly start eating more. Why people who stop drinking begin gambling. Why people who delete social media spend hours watching television instead. The habit changes shape, but the whole remains. You are not solving the problem. You are moving it around. Takeshi had experienced this cycle many times. When he quit smoking, he found himself eating candy constantly. When he tried to cut back on sweets, he started staying up late scrolling through his phone. When he forced himself to put the phone away, he felt restless and anxious and reached for cigarettes again. He was trapped in a loop. Fighting one habit only made another one stronger. Then, Kenji taught him about Ikigai. The word itself combines two parts. Iki, meaning life or alive. Gai, meaning worth or value. Your reason for being. Your purpose for waking up each morning. But Ikigai is not just some abstract philosophy about finding meaning. It is practical. It works because it addresses the real problem that habits create. In Okinawa, the southern islands of Japan, where people live longer than almost anywhere else on Earth, researchers asked centenarians about their secret. These were people who had reached 100 years old and remained active, healthy, and clear-minded. The researchers expected answers about diet or exercise. Instead, the oldest residents spoke about Ikigai. They spoke about having a reason to get up each day, a purpose that pulled them forward. They did not need to break bad habits because their lives were too full of what mattered. The Ikigai framework shows that purpose sits at the intersection of 4 elements. What you love doing, what you are naturally good at, what the world around you needs, what can sustain you over time. When these 4 overlap, you find your Ikigai. And here's the part that changes everything about habits. When you have a clear sense of Ikigai, destructive patterns lose their power. Not because you fight them, but because something more important takes their place. Most people never think about this. They attack the habit directly. But the habit is not the real problem. The habit is the solution to a problem. The cigarette provides relief from stress. The drink creates a transition from work to rest. The endless scrolling fills loneliness. The overeating soothes anxiety. These are all attempts to meet real needs. The needs are valid. The methods are just destroying you. Ikigai teaches you to meet those same needs in ways that build your life instead of tearing it down. There was a young samurai archer named Yuki in the province of Echigo during the early Edo period. He was skilled. His arrows hit their targets, but he had a problem that threatened to end his training. When he missed, he became furious. He would throw his bow, shout at others nearby, storm away from practice. His teacher, an old master named Nakamura, watched this pattern repeat for months. One day, after Yuki had another outburst, the teacher did something unexpected. He did not punish Yuki. He did not lecture him about self-control. Instead, he asked a simple question. Why do you practice archery? Yuki's answer came quickly. To become the best archer in the province. To bring honor to my family. To win. The teacher shook his head. That is ego speaking. Those are results you want, not reasons you practice. Ask yourself again. Not about winning. About practice itself. Why do you practice? For 3 days, Yuki thought about this question. He could not answer it. He had always focused on being better than others, on achieving recognition. He had never considered why the practice itself mattered. On the 4th day, he returned to his teacher with a different answer. I practice because in the moment before I release the arrow, everything becomes quiet. My thoughts stop. My body knows what to do without my mind interfering. For those few seconds, I feel completely present. Time slows down. Nothing else exists except me, the bow, and the target. That feeling is what I want, not the applause afterward. The teacher smiled for the first time in months. Now you understand your Ikigai in archery. Your anger appears when you forget this. When you start thinking about the result instead of being present in the practice. Your anger is not your enemy. It is a messenger. It tells you that you have wandered away from your true purpose. You are no longer practicing for the stillness. You are practicing for the approval of others. From that day forward, Yuki's relationship with anger changed completely. He did not fight it. He did not try to control it through discipline. When anger started to rise, he would pause. He would remember why he practiced. Not to win, not to impress, but to experience those moments of complete presence. The anger began to visit less often. When it did appear, it passed through quickly, like a cloud moving across the sky. Yuki had not become more disciplined. He had become more aligned with his purpose. The destructive pattern faded because something deeper had taken its place. This is how Ikigai works with habits. You do not attack the habit. You discover what the habit was poorly attempting to give you. Then you find a better way to meet that need, a way that aligns with who you actually are. Kenji taught Takeshi this through 4 questions. These questions form the foundation of finding your Ikigai. But Kenji presented them in a specific way, not all at once, not as a test to pass, but gradually, over several weeks of evening conversations. The first question was, what do you love doing, even when no one is watching? Not what you think you should love, not what would impress others. What actually absorbs you? Takeshi could not answer at first. His mind went blank. He had spent so many years in routines that he had forgotten what brought him genuine pleasure. So Kenji gave him homework. For 1 week, just notice. Notice when time passes quickly because you are absorbed in something. Notice when you forget to check your phone. Notice when you feel energized rather than drained. Write these moments down without judging them. Takeshi discovered something surprising. At work, when colleagues asked him to explain complex technical problems, he felt alive. He could take something confusing and make it clear. He would spend an hour explaining a system to someone, and it felt like 10 minutes. He loved those conversations. Not for recognition. The act itself satisfied something in him. The second question came a week later. What are you naturally good at? What comes easily to you that others find difficult? This was easier for Takeshi to answer. He was good at breaking down complicated ideas. He could see patterns in systems that others missed. He could explain technical concepts without using jargon. Colleagues often thanked him for making things finally make sense. The third question, what does the world around you need? Not the whole world, your community, your workplace, the people you encounter. What is missing that you could provide? Takeshi thought about the online forums he visited, places where beginners asked questions about programming and technology. Most answers were either too advanced or condescending. People needed someone who could teach without making them feel stupid. Someone who remembered what it was like not to know. The fourth question was the most practical. What could you do regularly without needing external rewards to continue? What activity would feed you rather than deplete you? Writing technical guides for beginners would do this. It used what he loved, what he was good at, and what people needed. And it gave him the satisfaction of helping others understand. Not for money, not for fame, for the inherent value of the activity itself. Here's what happened next. And this is where the approach becomes different from everything else Takeshi had tried. Kenji did not tell him to stop smoking. He told him to start writing. 3 evenings each week, Takeshi would go to a coffee shop near his apartment. He would spend 1 hour writing beginner's guides to programming concepts. He would post them on a blog he created. That was the entire commitment. 1 hour, 3 times a week. Nothing about cigarettes. Nothing about quitting. Just build this new practice. The first few times felt strange. Takeshi's mind kept telling him this was pointless, that he should just go home and smoke like always. The urge was still there, strong and familiar, but he had made a promise to Kenji. So he went to the coffee shop. He opened his laptop. He wrote. Some nights, after the hour was done, he would still smoke when he got home. Kenji had told him this was fine. Do not fight it. Just build the new pattern alongside the old one. Trust the process. Something unexpected started happening. On the nights Takeshi went to the coffee shop, he would become absorbed in writing. Explaining a concept clearly took focus. He had to think about how a beginner would understand it. What analogies would make sense? What examples would clarify the point? An hour would pass quickly. He would finish writing, save the draft, and realize he felt satisfied. The urge to smoke was still there, but it was quieter, less urgent. Some nights he would light a cigarette on the way home out of habit. But increasingly, he would get home and realize he had forgotten to smoke. This was not willpower. He was not resisting anything. The cigarettes were simply becoming less important compared to the writing. After 6 weeks, Takeshi noticed he had gone 3 days without smoking. Not because he was trying to quit, but because on those 3 days, he had been at the coffee shop writing, then gone home tired and satisfied, and the cigarettes had not crossed his mind. When he realized this, he felt something he had never felt. During his previous 17 quit attempts, he felt calm, not proud of resisting, not afraid of failing, just calm. The twist came in month 4. Takeshi received an email from someone who had read one of his guides. A university student struggling to understand databases. The guide Takeshi had written had made everything finally click. The student thanked him, said the explanation was better than any textbook, asked if Takeshi had written more guides. That email changed something fundamental. Takeshi realized his writing was not just an exercise. It was helping actual people. He had found something worth doing, something that mattered. The cigarettes had been filling a space that now had a real purpose in it. After 8 months, Takeshi had quit smoking completely, but he did not experience it as quitting. He experienced it as having found something better. The coffee shop evenings had expanded to 4 times per week. His blog had over 200 subscribers. He was helping people learn, That was his Ikigai. The cigarettes had simply become irrelevant. There was a teacher named Hana who struggled with late-night eating for 7 years. Every night after her 2 children went to bed, she would go to the kitchen and eat whatever she found. Chips, cookies, leftover rice, anything. She would stand at the counter in the dark and consume food she was not even tasting. She knew it harmed her health. She felt shame every morning. She tried everything. Locking the kitchen, going to bed earlier, having her husband hide the food. Nothing worked. The urge was too strong. Then her older sister gave her a book about Ikigai. At first, Hana thought it was just another self-help book that would not help. But one section stopped her. It asked, "What did you love doing before your current responsibilities took over? What part of yourself have you lost?" Hana knew the answer immediately. Before children, she had been a potter. She spent hours at the pottery wheel in the back of a small studio, shaping clay. She would lose herself completely in the process. The feel of the clay changing shape under her hands. The concentration required to center the clay. The satisfaction of creating something beautiful and functional. That part of her life had disappeared when her first child was born. She had told herself it was fine, that pottery was a luxury she no longer had time for. She had not realized she was mourning something. And the late-night eating was how she was trying to fill the empty space where pottery used to be. Hana could not return to a pottery studio. She had young children. Her evenings were not free, but she could do something small. She bought a block of clay and kept it on the kitchen counter next to where she usually stood eating. When the urge to eat came at night, she would go to the kitchen as always. But instead of opening the cabinet, she would take the clay in her hands. Just 5 minutes. She would not try to make anything. She would just feel the texture, press her thumbs into it, roll it between her palms. Let her hands remember what they used to know. Some nights, she still ate afterward. The urge did not disappear instantly. But some nights, those 5 minutes with the clay were enough. The act of working with her hands fed something that food could not. It connected her to the person she used to be, the person who created things. Over months, the pattern shifted. The eating decreased not through restriction, but through replacement. Her hands wanted to shape clay more than they wanted to open packages. Eventually, she carved out Saturday mornings to visit a pottery studio while her husband watched the children. 2 hours per week. That was her Ikigai time. And the late-night eating stopped. Not because she defeated it, but because pottery had returned to her life and filled the space that eating had been trying to fill. The samurai had a principle called Midzu no Kokoro, which translates to mind like water. When you throw a stone into still water, the water responds perfectly. It creates ripples appropriate to the size of the stone. Not too much, not too little. Then it returns to stillness. It does not overreact. It does not hold on to the disturbance. The water does not fight the stone. It simply responds, then releases. A mind aligned with Ikigai works the same way with habits. The urge comes, you notice it, you feel it fully, but you do not act on it automatically, and you do not fight it either. You acknowledge it like you would acknowledge a wave. Then you choose your purpose instead, and the urge passes. This is not about willpower. It is about having something more important than the urge. When Takeshi felt the craving for a cigarette, he did not shame himself. He did not grit his teeth and resist. He simply remembered what mattered more. The writing, the people he was helping, his Ikigai. The craving would come, rise to its peak, and then fade, like a wave. Every time he chose the writing, that neural pathway became stronger. Every time he let the craving pass without acting on it, that pathway became weaker. This requires understanding something essential about being human. You are not a creature of willpower. You are a creature of meaning. When life feels meaningless, you fill it with whatever provides immediate relief, comfort, or distraction. When life feels meaningful, you naturally move toward what serves that meaning. This is why fighting habits directly rarely works. You are treating the symptom, not the cause. The habit is not the disease. The habit is your attempt to cure a deeper pain. The pain of purposelessness. The discomfort of not knowing what you are here to do. The Japanese understand this deeply. They do not speak of conquering yourself or defeating your weaknesses. They speak of aligning with your true nature, of discovering what you are meant to contribute, of finding the work that uses your gifts to serve others. When you find this, the destructive patterns begin to fade, not through force, through irrelevance. You become too busy building something real to waste time on what harms you. Your bad habits are teachers. They show you where your life lacks direction and purpose. They point to needs you are trying to meet in ways that work against you. The path forward is not to attack these patterns. It is to understand what they are telling you. Then find better ways to meet those needs. Ways that align with who you actually are beneath all the habits that have accumulated over time. Your Ikigai is not something you invent. It is something you uncover. It has always been there, waiting for you to pay attention. The things you loved as a child before anyone told you what to care about. The activities that absorb you so completely you lose track of time. The ways you naturally help others without being asked. The skills that come easily to you while others struggle. These are clues. Your life is trying to tell you something. The question is whether you are listening. Here is how you begin applying Ikigai to replace your own destructive patterns. 1. Sit with a notebook for 20 minutes and answer the 4 Ikigai questions. What do you love doing? What are you naturally good at? What does the world around you need? What could you do regularly without external rewards? Write whatever comes, even if it seems unimportant or unrealistic. Do not judge your answers. Just observe what your mind offers. 2. Identify the hollow space your habit is trying to fill. When does the urge appear most strongly? What feeling is present in that moment? Stress, loneliness, boredom, exhaustion? Write this down without shame. The habit developed for a reason. Understanding that reason gives you power. 3. Design one small practice that connects to your Ikigai and could meet that same need more constructively. Make it so small you cannot fail. 5 minutes. One simple action. Something you can do 3 times per week without it feeling like a burden. Do not make it perfect. Make it doable. 4. Commit to this practice 3 times per week for 1 full month. Do not try to stop the bad habit. This is critical. Just build the new practice alongside the old one. Some weeks, the habit will be stronger. Some weeks, the new practice will feel more natural. Both are normal. Both are part of the process. Trust that building something positive is more powerful than fighting something negative. 5. Notice what happens without forcing anything. Pay attention to when the habit visits and when it does not. Notice which activities make you forget about the habit entirely. Keep a simple log if it helps. But do not judge yourself. You are gathering information, not scoring your performance. The goal is not perfection. The goal is to slowly build a life so full of purpose that the old pattern has nowhere left to live. You do not need to become someone completely different. You need to remember who you were before the habits buried you, before stress taught you to reach for quick relief, before loneliness that taught you to fill time with distractions, before exhaustion taught you that comfort matters more than purpose. That person is still there. Your Ikigai is calling to them, quietly, patiently, waiting for you to stop fighting long enough to listen. The samurai understood that strength is not about forcing yourself to change. Strength is about aligning your actions with your deeper nature. When you find your reason for being, the path becomes clear. The old patterns lose their hold, not because you have defeated them, but because you have outgrown them. You are not breaking habits. You are building a life. If you are ready to discover what you were meant to do, write in the comments. I will discover my Ikigai. Thank you for watching and for choosing the path of meaning over the path of escape.